Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome, folks. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host, Oregon Voter Digest. By George, we are going into change. Change. It surrounds us today. Well, guess what? We're ready to go. And in fact, we'll call this segment Golden Hours.
Oh, wow.
Golden Hours. Why do we say Golden Hours, Bruce? The Golden Hours, we got several categories here within the change piece. Mm-hmm. We got a new form of government.
Yes, we do.
And we're lacking one entity within that particular arena, and that is the seniors. So it's golden hours. We are part of the process, okay? And then we've got that middle person, right? Got me? And then we got a younger person, but we got golden hours, and we need to be at the table also too.
Yes, we do.
Because how in the world can they get an idea where they've been? And then where are we going? The other way we're going. So basically, the format is that way. And I just want to lay that out to you right at the front of this piece to kind of tell you where we're going. Because the bottom line, anything that we're talking about will change. We've got even the national politics.
Oh, yes.
You know, why should a person sitting in that presidential seat be wearing a tie? Golden hours. Now we can sort of understand a bit. So when we react, we got to react to, in fact, as the old brand says, we want to make, i.e. America, great again, or we want to make Portland great again, or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, people who are sitting in that senior citizen slot aspect of it are familiar with the good times in many ways. And young people are in the tech piece, this piece. You go on and on. Yeah. See, so the bottom line is that I'm doing this just quickly because we don't have to go with this whole issue of being so formal. We don't have to be formal. We're talking to people.
Yes, we are.
You know, we use the word community comes up.
Oh.
And it's not. And then when you start thinking about politics, it's not just Republicans or Democrats. It's Green Party. It's the Libertarian Party. I mean, It's just on and on and on. So, but the fact of the matter is, we're all here together.
That's right.
You got me? And so we've got to talk that way. And so consequently, the format of the show is going to be just that. Well, you know, I just happen to be the source from the standpoint of listening, representing community, representing, and then representing to let the folks talk. And these entities will be talked, i.e. without anybody coming in disrupting their way of thought. I want them to focus on what they're saying. My job is just to be here to basically show that I'm a host, if you will, an entity. And that's what we're going to do. And so we're going to start this whole piece with the people who are sitting in the chair right now.
Okay.
And it's the young folks.
Well.
And you've seen it. No, I understand where I'm coming from. You've had a part of, if you will, those seniors, the golden years, like myself.
Yes.
You know, in all due respect, I have nothing wrong with it. I'm a young senior.
I like to call myself a junior senior.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm at the beginning age. I don't get all the senior discounts yet. I'm working on it.
That's right.
But I definitely.
And you want to get there.
I definitely understand the senior perspective as I near closer to retirement, as some of the health challenges start to be in my near future.
Yes.
I had a few of them during COVID, and I learned a lot about what some of our seniors are facing, especially when it comes to the issue of homelessness, which I wasn't necessarily
that's what I'm saying. You see,
like
I said, that's why I'm saying she's sitting in that chair. That's the whole idea. I happen to be the senior person. I'm listening, but the idea is that the transition, if you will be sharing that, and we'll be doing that. Because in all due respect, the way we're going to be basically formatting the show, we'll talk to who's sitting in the chair now, and then we'll have a senior person coming in on the second half, responding and just educating folks. And then therefore, the person who's sitting in the chair now, like yourself, will have the opportunity to look at the show on your own. And then we'll pick subject matters that are active as it relates to now. So the youth can relate.
Yes.
And the seniors can relate. and they need to articulate. And then at the end of that part is that now we've got change for the betterment. Now we can get into how is it going to benefit me, if you will,
Yes.
so to speak. Okay. So with that, welcome. And I
Thank
know
you for having me.
you've seen this young lady before. She's been on the show many times, and she's been around. Trust me, she fits that junior category, if you will, of when you say junior, when you go to school or college or whatever, you got the senior, you got the freshman, and you got the junior classmate. Okay, and the freshman is definitely sitting out there. Got me?
Yes.
And in fact, we're going to start off the show that way, and we're going to stay sort of focus in the Portland metropolitan area, because that's where we live at this point
Yes.
in time. Sure, there's a national perspective, but we could be here for months talking about the
definitely.
national, and they've got their own spec. You can catch them on here if you want to.
Yes.
Get some examples. But what we're going to do, we're going to want to focus on our environment here in Oregon, which is considered to be the living room of the state of Oregon, Portland, Oregon, the city of Portland, city of roses. I'm very familiar with the roses because I was there, and I had them in my lapel, the whole 9 yards. We don't have the roses anymore, if you will. Well, we do, but we don't. Let's put it that way.
I remember when we
Yeah.
used to have all the roses, and when it rained like this, they would cover them with umbrellas.
Yes.
So that they
Oh,
wouldn't
this is
mold
great.
in the
See,
center.
already, that's
and it was
right.
just beautiful, and it would smell so.
Well, that's
so
why
beautiful.
you're a junior. You see,
Yeah.
you're not a freshman. The freshmen haven't even seen one.
Yeah.
They didn't know it's one. So with that, we're going to start with you. We want you to, in fact, why don't you just give them a little quickie background of, bring them up to date in terms of.
Oh my goodness.
Well, only from the standpoint of who you are and what are you doing now specifically.
Okay,
And then we're going to get into those issues.
Okay.
Because like I said, the first thing we want to talk about is the new city government that we have now, right now, and we want to get your feelings of how does that relate to you, in terms of, and then we're going to talk about that, and then our next guest is going to basically talk about how it relates to them from a senior citizen perspective.
Sure.
Okay, that
So-
sounds good?
Yep.
So why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, so my name is Rochelle Dixon, and I'm a community booster, community advocate, sometimes lawmaker. I've written several laws that have passed around here. One you might be familiar with, the mass marijuana expungement law, which was passed by Senator Frederick, and the legs that provided all of the work and the education for the 3 counties and the strategy was myself.
Okay.
And so I like to write laws that support the community, doing things with making sure that we have an equitable community for everyone. And my pastimes have just really been working from a political standpoint to shape the neighborhoods that I've lived in. Right now I'm a resident of Southwest Portland, and it could certainly use a little shaping. We're not quite where we need to be. So I'm excited to be here and talk with you today, Bruce.
And the other thing I'd mention to the viewing audience, and if you want to get those past shows that we did here, you can do that.
Yes.
All you have to do is Google it on YouTube, Oregon Voter Digest, and there's a long listing of history that's sitting there, and she's there. She's a very prominent person from the standpoint of we were involved in a number of issues, and you can see her from that particular perspective. But we've got her here now, and right up front with, while we're going through all this major change, she's going to be there. She's going to be sitting in this seat and representing, if you will, that junior element that is there, that is a fixture within our country. And now we just happen to have that situation here in the city of Portland, because it really represents that. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's just get right on in the deal. Let's talk about this new form of government. One, when did it come to the table with you, and how did you respond to it, and then just go through that cycle and then bring it up to date in terms of what do you feel, and how has it benefited you and community? Has benefited you and community, and is it working?
Well, I would say that it's much too early to determine if it can work. But what I'm going to say right now is realistically, it isn't working. I think we understand that. There's a lot of complaints coming from citizens who don't really understand how it's working. And I can understand why they don't understand, because I would not understand. I have not really heard from my representatives in Southwest And I understand that many folks have not heard from their representatives. So they don't really understand who to contact about what. And they feel very disappointed that they don't feel empowered the way they thought they would. One example is that while there are new commissioners in each of the new districts, all of the meetings and all the decisions are still being made downtown. That does not make people feel empowered. It makes them feel like perhaps something is going on that they should know about, but then they'd have to go downtown, find parking, they're working, they may have minor children they're caring for, parents they're caring for. So it really just takes them out of their home place and puts them downtown in a space that's kind of foreign to them. And so that is a deterrent for people understanding what's going on. What really should happen is the commissioners should be in district, definitely helping people to move from the old system to the new system and talking with them regularly about how this new system will impact them, and also hearing their concerns. And there are a lot of concerns out there that are just not getting addressed. Everything from potholes. I'm not going to say what happened to my my tire, but it might have been a pothole. It might have been a pothole. So there's definitely a lot of road work that needs to be done. The infrastructure as far as crosswalks in my area, we don't have crosswalks, and that is an area that needed to be addressed some time ago. I understand it's a bit of an engineering feat. I did talk with some planners about it a few years ago because of the heights and the hills and why they didn't put the sidewalks in. But think about a person who has a cane or uses a wheelchair. We're really just leaving them out of the community and accessibility to things like even grocery stores. And so we need to, take a look at that. We also in Southwest are having huge problems with the same thing the rest of Portland is having with houselessness. And it is not being adequately addressed at all in my area. So there's just a lot of different things that I see that are confusing in my area. And I know the same things are going on in other communities because folks are telling me that. Well, we don't know who to go to about this, or we don't know who to go to about that. And they're not sure if it's going to be a partisan response, if anyone's going to care about what they have to say. And it's very unfortunate that most people do not understand this form of government as of today.
Tell me, let's say go on day one when they started thinking about this idea. It naturally originated from the city council, right? From the city council. Were you familiar with that from the standpoint that they put together? Okay, you want to go through that process a bit?
Well, it sounded good at the time, but I really think there was a lack of education and more preparation could have been put into it to make the idea come to fruition, but much more slowly. Because you can see, although everyone was saying, yay, this is going to be so much better, they really didn't educate the populace about how it was going to be better and how that would happen. So folks thought, oh yeah, we'll have more folks who will be responsive. And that sounded great to me. Because if you've ever called City Hall, you may know that very few people pick up their phone. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of things that could be handled very simply with a phone call or email don't get handled until it's very much out of control. So I think there definitely needs to be more accessibility from City Council, and I would say that's even true now. Okay.
Are they picking up the phone now?
Well, I can't say that I know many people that try and call. I happen to be one that will call. And if they don't pick up the phone, I just generally email them and say I'd like to arrange a meeting. Not everyone feels like they have that kind of opportunity. And so I don't think that most of them are picking up the phone now to talk about concerns. I think most of them are just trying to help the constituents understand what their role is. And how they're going to function, because I think that's the real problem. So individuals see their faces, but they don't know who's in charge of what.
Okay.
So who's in charge of maybe civic life, and who's in charge of parks and recreation. They don't know those things. And so it'd be nice to see some faces in the neighborhood and speaking to folks directly in their neighborhood about the things that are going on in their neighborhood versus having to go downtown. Now, if that had been pushed to the forward, if that had been brought to light much more clearly, I think people would have said, well, how is this going to be different? So we're going to have more people who don't pick up the phone. And right now, that's pretty much where we're at. And if someone is having a different response than that, then, you know, I'd say yay for them.
Okay, just a couple of little thoughts for you. Now, when it started, the whole idea is that we've got 4 districts.
Yes.
4 districts, and we've not had that before.
Yes.
In form of government. And that was put together by this committee from the city aspect of it. That was one of the major charges. And then 3 commissioners per district. 3 commissioners. And these individuals are supposed to identify in a specific area. And I ain't talking to the fact of picking up the phone. You've got 3 people that you can call that hopefully they will pick up that phone.
Yeah, and my district is, I live in Southwest, but the district that I'm in, District 4, covers Southwest and a little bit of Southeast,
Right.
which is also interesting because I would like to know how that was cut.
Right.
Was it cut in terms of numbers of individuals? And I'm sorry, I have not looked that up. But when I look at the needs of Southwest Portland and the needs of Southeast Portland, having lived in both, they are nowhere near each other.
Okay.
So those who've lived in Southwest are going to have to do a lot of learning about what the needs of Southeast Portland is. Now, when I lived in Southeast, one of the problems was sidewalks. And I had a person that lived with me was in a wheelchair. And I used to wheel him to a certain point so he could get to a sidewalk. That's embarrassing for what's considered a very progressive liberal city, that we don't have sidewalks for our citizens to use for strollers, for use for canes. It's a bit embarrassing, you know. So I think it's time we definitely jump on that. But it's very important that our leaders get out into the community and speak to the neighborhood about their concerns are. I took some time to ask, what are your concerns? And I heard the usual things like potholes. I also heard about lighting in some places, of course, homelessness, a lot of infrastructure things. But mostly I heard, why isn't anyone doing anything? And I think there are lots of things being done, but not necessarily being communicated. And so that's why I think it's very important that the individuals that are in the individual districts get out and have conversations with their constituents on a regular basis, starting ASAP in their districts. What's wrong with the coffee shops? You know, I have coffee shops in the districts. I know Senator Lou Frederick used to regularly hold events at coffee shops, and I'd say that would be a good way to encourage people to get out and have conversations. I also wonder if some of the individuals who are really new to community, I guess that's the best way of saying that. I haven't seen them out very much working on community issues, but now that they're elected, hopefully they'll become more involved in the community. But I think that may be part of the issue. Some of the individuals that are elected don't have experience in the communities. They live in those communities, but they're maybe not rooted in those communities. So that's going to be a challenge as well.
But you made the point. What do you think about the fact that right now, to date, what I've seen, they're all housed downtown?
Well, let me say that again. What
would be your preference? Would you want them in your districts?
I think they should be in the districts. I think that the downtown, the idea that they need to be downtown to do the majority of their work is seated in the idea that city council knows what's best for you.
Well, the whole idea.
Did you catch that though? I just want to reiterate that.
I heard that.
It's saying that we know what's best for you, and we'll make those decisions from the capital of Portland. But by splitting these districts, we're really saying that each one should have a center in that district.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're forcing folks to go downtown to have these conversations. Senior citizens, and we've already discussed getting people on the phone and the email is not so easy. So having them in the district would make it much easier for single parents, for senior citizens, individuals just short on time, and it just makes sense. Why would you want to be downtown
right.
instead of facing your constituents?
That's right,
There's a problem there.
Well, along that same line, they do have an office in their respective district because they have to live in the district that they
That's
ran
right.
from. Okay,
That's right.
So, and you do have access to their address, right,
Yes.
and their phone numbers
Yes.
from each one of them. So now we'll just say that the office now sits at their home.
Well,
Wait a minute. I mean, representation. You got to reach out, right?
that's right.
You made the point about going downtown, parking situations, and on and on and on and on, and then you mentioned about what are the issues in your respective district. You got
That's
my
right.
point. And each district is different.
That's right.
You got my point. So now we've got 3 commissioners. At one point in time, we had 4 commissioners for the entire city.
That's right.
Okay, and the mayor was kind of the leading force that basically decided what issues to identify and talk to. Right, got me? But now we got commissioners, 3 commissioners per district. They make the decisions, right? And the mayor doesn't. He only breaks the tie, if that's such a fact. But he doesn't have so my point is that they've got 3 offices in your respective district.
Certainly.
With the phone number and the address.
Yeah. So if you call their office, it should be able to reach them even if they're physically not downtown. That makes sense. I prefer that when they're meeting constituents, that they find either local business or maybe even the parks. A lot of the parks have facilities that they could use.
But I'm just saying for now, we like you said, we want it, like you said, we're trying to figure out how do we change it. And actually, they've got their own personal deal, but they're being paid pretty well to basically be able to deal with that issue.
Well, I think the first thing that we have to change is we have to change their response. So having
Yes.
a reaction
Yes.
to something and just not having it thought out critically is not the way we want to go.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
3 people in this role, and there is enough manpower there
Yes,
or power
yes,
there
yes.
to actually break down issues and get a well thought out response to constituents. And that's what I'd like to see.
Okay.
And so far, without
You don't have that now.
no, we don't have it now.
We don't have
and
it now.
and when I talk to folks about who their representative is,
Right.
most don't even know. So that's a problem. Now I realize that not everybody voted. Some people didn't pay attention, and I get all that. But it's not the citizens' issue to have to bring things to the attention of the elected. It's the elected's job.
They're employees, right?
That's right. It's their job.
Okay.
So they need to hear about the potholes, the timing of the lights.
Whatever, in their respective district.
That's right.
Let's say, to start there, okay? And then the other thing is that, historically speaking, under the old system, unless you contributed to that campaign, or you personally know the individual, and that's a small group, if you will, and so, what influence you have, that's it. So the majority, if you will, of the people who picks up the tab, who are paying the bill, are not being able to get any kind of response. That's basically what it is. And so the whole idea, the change sounds good, got me? So the whole idea now, we need to make it work this system out to a certain degree, because now these individuals are there, but something needs to be done about
I hope that's
reaching
the
out to them.
direction we're
Is
going.
that okay? Is that where you want?
I hope that's the direction we're going. Because right now it is so new that I think it's going to take a few folks a little time to figure it out. And I think that there are new folks who are going to adapt really easily to some of the things. And I think that there are some things that probably need to stay the same. And I think there's some experienced folks that will actually just kind of hit the ground running because this is their jam. This is what they know what to do. And so I want to say that Loretta Smith
Yeah,
is
she's in one
probably
district. She was very much involved from the county standpoint.
yes,
And we had two other city representatives.
yes,
Dan Ryan, who's in District Number 4.
yes.
And what was the other gentleman name? He was a pothole. He's a disabled guy. There was another guy that was who was on city council. He was a city employee at one point in time. City councilor.
Mingus?
No. But anyway,
I don't-
but my point is that
And Candace, I think she's been Candace Avalos. I hope I'm saying that name right. But basically, I've seen her in the community so much of the
Yeah,
time.
but I'm just
I
saying-
want to be honest. I've never seen Dan Ryan
Yeah.
out in the community doing anything. So I think his way of talking to his constituents is from downtown. And I'll be honest, I don't think it's fair to your constituents. I don't think it's fair to make them jump through several hoops. They're not getting paid to jump through those hoops, and you are getting paid to jump through those hoops. To be honest, I feel the same way in the self-checkout line. I don't know about you, but I don't work for the store. So I feel like them making me go find the product and hunt it down and carry it and then check it out. I feel like, well, geez, just pay me and I'll do it myself. And if I have to do government myself, what do I need you for? Now, I have said that as a person who's done government myself. And when I'm very frustrated when I have to do the job as a private citizen of the government. And I have done it many times on various different issues. Just like, for example, when it was really hot,
Yeah.
and we were trying to get people to, I've worked with the houses, and we were trying to get them to the shelter. They set up all the houseless shelters. They did not make the buses available to the houseless people to get to the shelters. And when they had the shelters, they didn't have wheelchairs at the entrances of the shelters for the seniors, for the people who had canes. They had them walking across MLK Street to the Moda Center, and not to the Moda Center, to the Convention Center. That's a very busy street. No one to guide the folks across the street. It ended up being so bad that when I went there to check, there was a older gentleman on the ground. He'd fallen out of his wheelchair trying to get there from the back. And I was like, wow, they didn't even patrol. So we're wasting a lot of money. We're not talking to the individuals about what they need. We're misapplying the money because we don't know what they need. We're thinking we have all the best ideas in this one area. Actually, the solutions are all over. The solutions are within this community. And so we need to get out and we need to talk to the individuals who live with those situations. I know that Southeast has a different situation than Southwest. My sister lives in Southeast. There's a lot of crime. My sister was out one day in her yard and someone ran through her yard, and it's scary. We need to address this. She's not going out at night, anymore. So we need to address everything from the aspect of who are we serving, and make it convenient for the people we're serving, not necessarily for the convenience of the individual elected.
Okay. Do you think that they clearly educated the voting public, the employers, about what was at the beginning, what was the intent of change, and how it was going to benefit the individuals, the taxpayers, if you will, and the community as a whole? Did you get that when
I
it
do
first
think
started?
they stress the benefits. I do
But
think
did
they
you-
stress.
where did you get that? Were you getting it from the media? Were you getting it from radio? Were you getting it from the newspapers? Or were you getting it from commissioners? I mean,
Well, I think
where did you get your source? Did you ever have the opportunity to sit down and look at, listen to, be at one of the committee meetings where they were talking about this?
I'll be honest.
Yeah, be
I
straight
didn't.
up.
I didn't, and here's why. Because when I heard it, I immediately thought, oh, this is a great idea, because this city is growing. And so it was very difficult to get individuals to have the time to address things that were maybe lesser priorities. And so some of the things that I looked at in my community were considered lesser priorities. I'll give you an example. We have a park in in Portland, in Southwest, and it was formerly called Custer Park.
Custer.
Custer,
Oh.
as General
General Custer.
Armstrong
General
Custer.
Custer, okay.
But that actually isn't representative of the Southwest community and the diversity, and I felt like it should have another name. So I worked on getting it another name. It now temporarily was named A Park. It's just been renamed. But a lot of people felt like that's not something to work on. And
What is
then
A Park?
A Park?
What is it?
It's-
Is that the name of the park?
Temporarily. So what
A
happened?
Park.
Yeah, A Park to
Is there a
remove
B
Custer.
Park? Is there a B Park?
No, there isn't, but there probably should be. It's just that General Armstrong Custer didn't really deserve a park in Oregon. There are lots of Oregon heroes that we could have used. And also, it would have been nice to maybe celebrate the indigenous community that we have here and kind of rename that. So that's been worked on for 6 years, and the solution is right there. But what I didn't understand when they were educating folks about how this was going to be better, and they explained to the community that it would be better because there would be more individuals. Some of the individuals that are in those seats, I wonder if they're up to the challenge of the transition during this very extremely difficult time, and they're navigating these waters, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I think that's the challenge. Not that the structure is changed. That's a challenge too. But some of these people didn't know the old structure. So Loretta Smith being someone who knew the old structure, and then she's going to have to change to a new structure. But many of these electeds are just newly elected. They have no knowledge of what's gone before. Well, I shouldn't say no knowledge, but they don't have the lived experience of being in positions and understanding how to make those connections. And I think that's the challenge. Not that they didn't educate folks about the potential benefits. I think that's why folks were excited about it. But in order to have those benefits, you need to have people who are skilled and carrying these things out.
But at the time, during that particular time, there were some major issues that were formed and identified in the whole media market aspect of it. And hopefully the whole idea was that was going to be the platforms for individuals who were interested in running for office to make sure that they knew that existed and had some idea of a solution, i.e. homelessness, i.e. crime, i.e. job, just right down the line aspect of it. And so the result of the election hopefully would have been these individuals would have been knocking on doors and making sure that they were going to address the issues that are like the homelessness thing. That's huge because you got all different kinds of fingers on that piece aspect of it.
Yes.
And so then the results, like I said, these people now who will be sitting there will be talking about their solutions that they were used from a platform, because we already had the platform. The platform was already there. So the whole idea, the people we're selecting had solutions, if you will, and they were getting paid to work on those solutions, not, if you will, do an on-the-job training kind of a deal.
I was going to say that
okay?
I think what's happened is we used to have a
What do you think
word,
about that?
hit the ground running. And I would say that some people are more experienced and they have political experience, and that background is going to help them understand how to navigate these waters. Even though there are more people, the way that you navigate these systems hasn't suddenly changed. Right? So people will think, well, the roles have changed and the titles have changed, but the political apparatus of the United States has not changed. So we're still going to have to lobby, you're still going to have to do these things, talk to your constituents, and that work just isn't being done as well as it needs to be done.
But isn't that the media's role, though? I mean, you got TV, you got radio. I mean, you got the whole 9 yards. You got the tech piece aspect of it. Don't you think that they clearly identified specifically what the platforms were of concern, if you will, of the paying public?
Well,
Don't you think that was done well?
I think that what's happened is I think the national all the noise from the national fallout from the national election is challenging us here. And I also think that because the solution, the difficulties with houselessness are so large, I think many people haven't framed it in a way that it needs to be framed. I'll give you an example.
But whose job is that supposed to be? Now, we had a president.
You're going to have to indulge me this one, okay?
Okay.
Because I really want to break this down.
Go on.
So when I looked at houselessness, now I for a time I was a landlord, and I rented to tenants who would normally be houseless. One had he was in a wheelchair. He subsequently lived with me till he passed away of cancer. He was sick. He got hit by a truck and broke
And
all.
you did this. You actually,
Yes, and so he stayed in my house, but he had no history. He had no rental history. Another gentleman, when he was 21, was drinking and driving, and committed a crime, and could not get a place because he committed a crime. He had a girlfriend. He moved in. Okay. So I noticed that a lot of people who were homeless actually started with legal problems or medical problems, not so much financial problems. Not so much financial problems of not being able to pay the rent immediately, but having things happen and then having those things happen. So I think a lot of people think they're going to solve houselessness by giving people a home. So just a house. So then I tried, okay, I'm going to go out, and I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of money on this because I became very ill, and I thought, well, I might as well blow it because I didn't know what this COVID thing is going to do. And so I went out and bought RVs. I bought 8 RVs with my own money, and I put homeless individuals in those RVs. And one of the things I noticed is after a good meal and some sleep and a little bit of compassion, they seem to improve 25%. Just woo! And I was like, wow. Some of them were just psychologically sleep deprived from just having to be alert all the time. I also noticed this when I housed them in a building during COVID. But the thing is, some of them didn't actually know how to use the facilities anymore. They had neurological problems that made them have disabilities. So the answer back then was put them in an apartment or a house. Now we've gone beyond that. Now we need to have some medical evaluations. We need more disabled housing because we have people with neurological problems who are subject to falls. There's just so much. And I helped with Portland State University when they did the homeless point in time where they count the number of individuals that are homeless. Yeah, the survey. And you have the people who are on the street, you can see them, right? And then you have people in hotels and people in cars. You can't see all the people who are actually houseless. And there's different needs for these different groups. And I think that folks are just talking about where we're going to make a building. And then we're going to put the people in the building, and that's going to solve houselessness. If you spent the last 4 decades criminalizing people, right? And then keeping them from getting jobs that would pay wages that would get them an apartment, you've got a lot of work to do before you can solve houselessness. And by the way, the mass marijuana expungement bill, from my perspective, was about employability. So just a little backtrack on that.
Okay.
I knew a guy, and he wanted a raise. And he said, well, I can't get a new job because I have a marijuana charge. I was really shocked because he was working for a religious institution. He has children he adopted. I knew his wife. I knew his mother. Great people. This charge was from like when he was 19. And here he was all up in his 40s and 30s, late 30s, pushing 40, and could not get a job because of the marijuana charge. Now, if you don't see how that is connected to people not having houses because they can't get a living wage job, I said, this is crazy, can't be true. So then I went and did the research and found out, yes, and that's the way most people are getting to houselessness, is having 1 or 2 things affect them. in the expungement, that would have cured a lot of people not being houseless. Because once that pattern starts and you keep not being able to find jobs and you had to find second chance employers and all these things, it's hard. And now we have a new group coming on, and the problem will not be solved by giving them a house. You're not going to solve the problem of somebody who's neurologically damaged by not giving them a house. Here's another thing. Does Portland have enough beds to solve the issue of the drug use and the houselessness? What about elderly and the houselessness? We're going to need to rethink what houselessness looks like. Because before it was families, now the rising segment is seniors who just can't afford the rent.
Wow. Now you did this on your own. What you reached out on your own to reach these folks individually. You bought them some RVs, you brought them into the home, and you took them up to a certain point. And then all of a sudden, did you ever reach out to the agencies, the government agencies that were available?
I did.
What happened?
During COVID, I reached out to the Joint Office of Homeless Service, and they were providing.
Now, who are they with? The county or the city?
This is the county. And they were able to provide some of the supplies that I use for serving the houses.
Okay.
So when I was providing food, at one point they were providing the containers and things like that. So that was really helpful.
Okay.
There were other things.
Were they paying you a salary?
Oh no! This was all free, and this was basically, I started feeding the houseless to honor my mother, who never met a stranger and never met someone she didn't want to feed. And so I started doing that to honor her. And then I realized the need was just much more than I understood. I encountered so many things. When I first started, there wasn't as much drug use, and then the hopelessness caused a lot of drug use. I found hospitals ejecting elderly patients.
I've heard that.
Dumping them. Because they have no place to go, and them saying it's not my problem. And let's face it, the jail has become the de facto homeless shelter. And the police are not paid or equipped, trained to deal with the level of things we're asking them to do. And then we're mad at them when they don't do well. All I'm saying is we need to start taking responsibility for our community and not dumping everything on the police. Homeless, call the police. Car theft, call the police. Everything is on the police. We're not really getting solutions from city council. We haven't been, and we still aren't. So I'm hoping that these newbies can insert some energies.
Put that on that list. Call the commissioner.
Yeah.
Here are your commissioners. Put it on a billboard or something like that, and put their face on it, okay, with a phone number. And it's like, commissioner, got my point? And let them call. Put it all over the city, for that matter, in your respective districts.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to belittle these individuals. They're getting paid for this.
Yes.
But they should have clearly identified the specific issues to address to run for that office. If you understand that kind of.
I do, and I have to say, unfortunately, while we're taking too long to make these decisions, you can see, I'm going to say at the national level, they're moving fast.
Oh yeah.
I don't see any hesitation at the national level of getting things done, right? So when the national level, when President Trump says he's going to get something done, man, before you can turn back on the news, it's already done. We're moving way too slow.
Well, as I said, we started the show, this is not golden hour.
Yes.
He is a golden hour entity. Okay? That's why he wears a tie. Okay? He's golden hours. The young person, no due respect, the juniors and the freshmen for sure, definitely don't wear ties. Got me?
Yep.
The juniors, you catch a few of them wearing a tie or whatever. But the one at the top that had the experience and exposure historically, that's the one who basically, that's why I wear my tie in many ways. That's why I'm still wearing my logos, if you will, of having been in the Marine Corps and the Vietnam War and things of that nature, because I'm of that golden era aspect of it. And all three of those components need to be a part of the process, and we need to recognize that.
We didn't even get to talking about what's happening with the veterans.
Yes. Well, we're going to do that. That's what I'm saying. I want you to talk, because you I've known you for quite some time. and I've known you. You've been out there.
I'm disappointed in how we're handling our veterans.
I know that. I know that. We're going to talk. We want to talk about that piece too. But let's continue talking about addressing the whole issue of this new government piece aspect of it, because that's the whole nature of the conversation we're having right now. The folks that are sitting there now, for whatever reason, they're there, and they're getting paid. Do you clearly? They need to clearly understand they're employees. They're not employers. Okay. They're not individuals that should be basically, in all due respect, identifying new issues now.
Oh, we know the issues, right?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They should be specifically identified with the issues that the whole system change, and the voting time talk to that to the paying employers.
Well,
we're not getting that. So we need to help. So that's why we're doing the show the way we're doing it now. These individuals should be looking at the show. We're going to educate them. They do a show too. You got me?
I want to say that there's probably things that they're working on that they just haven't revealed yet, and I haven't spent a lot of time digging because it's basically new. But here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that during the beginning of COVID, I was talking about the challenges of the houselessness. I felt the response was inadequate. It was very inadequate.
Yes.
I was right. It was inadequate then. It's still inadequate. And someone said, well, there's a housing plan, and it's a 5-year plan. Just wait, Rochelle. It'll be
now,
fine.
who was that coming from?
Oh, it's just someone who knew of the plan. Now, it's been past 5 years because my memory is long.
County,
okay?
city. County, city,
I'm an
or
elephant.
State? I understand. County, city, or state? What?
This was city.
The city.
The city had a 5-year plan.
5-year plan.
It's been past 5 years.
Been past 5 years.
I have seen no evidence of that plan.
What was the plan?
The plan was how they were going to get all these people housed, and once you know how they were doing it, you knew it would never work. Okay.
Talk to me.
So once you understand that instead of making companies build housing and set aside X amount of housing for the unhoused, you say, well, instead of setting aside X number of units, you can just give us the cost of X number of units. So if X number of units, for easy math, I'll say each unit is worth $50,000, and you're supposed to make 6, then you pay us $300,000. What happens is the money goes into a fund and it doesn't get used. And that's why we're sitting here with money allocated for housing that is not being used. Because instead of them actually taking the housing from the builder who was qualified to build, they just let them pay money into a fund. And then the city didn't do anything with that. The county didn't do anything with that. Excuse me, the county. The county didn't anything.
You may have to come back and no. Let's talk about it now.
Some of the criticism.
Give me a little bit more of a define that again for me again. Let's go with that floor again. Once before, you said housing, a 5-year plan, right? Got me?
Yes.
And the definition of that particular plan was again what now? For housing. Now this is free housing.
They're gonna. Well, it was going to be moderate income and also low income, not market-based housing. So for every builder that came in the city, they were going to build X amount of units depending on what what they were building, the size of the complex they were building.
Okay.
But most of them simply just paid into a fund to have housing built instead of building it themselves, which then the county and the city did not utilize. So this came up.
Who built the house?
Builders.
The builders built the house.
Yeah, and when they build, they contribute to a fund for low-income housing.
So who owned the house then? The city?
The city doesn't own anything because it hasn't built anything. All it did was take the funds and set them in the bank. There are funds right now for housing to be built for low-income and for houseless individuals. It's not being built. And I even called. I couldn't figure it out. So this was during COVID. I was so concerned. I called up.
Who was the mayor at the time?
This was Ted Wheeler. I called up Parks and Recreation because Park and Recreation had on sale available land that they were not using. And I was like, if you've got money and there's available land that you're going to sell for pennies on the dollar, why can't you just build? Some of the places wouldn't be suitable, right? But some would. can't we look through what we have that we own and see where we can build? And maybe it's not a skyscraper, but maybe we build 20 units. It just is not going to work out when you say just pay to play, and then you don't do anything with the
Boy,
money.
you threw something out there, because in all due respect, when you think about the county, they take care of all the foreclosures. And they always have housing, if you will, houses. And then just sell them out. Sell them out to the people who got cash money, you got me? And then they basically put them back into the market because they own them individually. But the idea, that's an entity that you can basically buy and rehab. Take some of that money, rehab, and you got a home.
Yeah, and for example, there are some beautiful places that were gardens, community gardens. I love the community gardens. I'm starting mine this year. But some of those places would be better off as small senior complexes, because you could build on one space and then leave some of the gardens for the, you know, if it's structurally possible. But you see that it's possible for it to be used. Its primary use right now should be for any available space.
Right.
Should be for housing.
Right.
Because we have too many unhoused people. It makes it very hard to promote our city and to do well with traveling. We've got a number of issues, and I don't think we have a lot of time to turn it around.
That's true.
I don't think so. A lot of people say, well, this is, you know, we're losing money. It's becoming a brain drain for the young people. There's no opportunities here for them. And we're losing the wealthier people who are going to other places where there's better a tax base and more livability.
Well, again, we're talking about Portland, you see? Portland, Oregon. And, you know, this was a city of roses.
Yes.
You know, and where are the roses? Have you seen roses lately? No roses? I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, the parks would carry him. Big time. They were all over the place. They had
I'm not even.
competitions. They had all kinds of things, you know, about... they had a competition, national competition.
Yeah.
In the city of Portland, Oregon.
You know, to be honest, I'm not
Tourism.
even worried about the roses anymore. I am worried about our waterways.
The waterways.
I'm worried about the waste collecting in our waters from dumping in our water. We don't even need roses right now. What we need to do.
I know you wanted to mention homeless, but you stayed away from that debate.
Well, the
smiled
homeless
on it.
definitely are impacting it, but the fact is there are people who are housed, because when I see a sofa dumped by the side of the road, I don't think it's an unhoused person. It's someone who's just deciding that they don't want to pay for that. But no matter how it's happening, it's impacting our water. It's making our water unsafe, and it's just an environmental hazard. So we need to address the homelessness. The waste issue, I think, is related and a separate issue. I'm going to hurt feelings when I say this, but it's time to start including waste pickup in our tax base, because we are paying for the waste pickup of the homeless and the houseless right now. But if we were to make that formalized, I think we could be more efficient, because right now you can get bags and you can give those bags to the houseless, and you can pick up the trash. But there's just so many things. There's needles on the ground. There's human waste. There's pet waste. I'm not excited about going out there to do a cleanup day. I personally, I have in the past, but right now I'm just not excited about that. So,
and it's still a major problem.
Yes, it is.
See, again, here we go again. That was already there for the newly elected folks to identify with, but we didn't do it that way. We basically said, okay, fine, there's an election, this is how much you're going to get paid, and that was the only thing that reigned.
Well, I also think that while people thought there were going to be more people, therefore more people to contact, I just don't think that...
Yeah, but we got more people.
Yes, we have more people,
But we
and
never
what I
talked
said
about
at the
the
time
platform.
would be more people to not pick up the phone. That was a
Okay.
joke I said
That's right.
before the
That's right.
election was
That's right.
held.
That's right.
So not anything
They're
against
not
the
picking-
people in
they're
that
not-
role.
They're not picking the phone up now anyway.
But I joked that that would happen. But I haven't actually tried to get on any of the calendars. I should try that because I have some concerns in my neighborhood that are beyond.
Well, let's do this because you're going to be back.
Yeah.
We're going to be coming on and on. Why don't we do this? Why don't you do the little research? Call those folks up. Call the mayor up, the new mayor, for instance. You know what I mean? We're supposed to have a city manager. I still don't know where is that structure. Where is that person? Who's getting the manager? I mean, the person city manager who's supposed to be familiar with all the bureaus. Okay, so realistically, that is not the task of the new city commissioners. We already have someone to monitor that piece, to keep that going. Okay, so the whole idea is that the mayor needs a job. He's working on the homeless piece. Keith. He's been there big time. He's a businessman aspect of it, and whatever. But he has no power with these commissioners in many ways, and so they need direction. And so maybe because he ran as mayor, he could identify the issues that the employers have said these were the major issues: homelessness, drugs.
I hope we're not still trying to identify issues.
No,
I hope we're way past
it's already there. No, we already have them.
Yes.
I'm just saying that gives him an opportunity to say, look, these are the things that you got elected for. Because he's kind of like sitting there, what does he do? Give him something to do. And then these folks then kind of like in boot camp. They're in boot camp. And we don't have time to have people out in boot camp. They got to be running, like you're saying. They got to be troops out there. They got to be reaching out to those voters out there, those folks out there in the home,
and the non-voters. To be honest, one of the challenges is reaching out to people that you think might have an impact on your community, but you need to talk to the other folks that maybe aren't as verbal because they have something to say. I mean,
well, those folks don't. No, those kind of folks don't get elected, like yourself. Like myself, we can talk about something, but the bottom line, that's why we're doing it. Okay, these are the golden hours.
Yeah, and it's just so important that we go step by step, methodically, because just like the trash issue, we have rapid response. And that contract is so bloated.
Oh yeah,
it's millions of dollars to pick up waste from the houseless. We should just spread this around and have designated places and dump boxes.
Well, in all due respect, out there, a little quick note. All these facilities that feed people, like in the morning, they go in there and get the breakfast and they eat and whatever. Where do they take a poop? They should be that entity should be required to make available a poop area, so they can just sit down and relax, take a poop before they go out and wherever, because they got to poop.
Yeah.
Where they gonna go? Where are they going to go? Randy Leonard tried it once, when he was city council, to put something together, but that's gone.
They do actually. Portland had bathrooms, and they closed them all down.
Oh yeah. Well, obviously.
And now we have dysentery.
I know.
Now you know where dysentery comes from, right? So yes, it is an issue. It definitely is an issue.
We'll talk about that the next time around on that piece of it. Okay, tell you what, this has been great. Hopefully our next session, we're going to continue our talk, if you will.
I'll make some calls.
You can make some calls and see what we come up with. Okay. Sounds good. It's going to be a pleasure working with you. This is going to be good. We're going to help these folks out now, because that's what we need to do. Okay, folks. Hey, share this with your folks, your neighbors, and this, that, and the other. But please tune in. Oregon Voters Digest. Google it on YouTube. Take care. Have a good one.
I want to know what John